I think typically people think, oh, well, if this person spent 7 years at the company, then maybe they deserve a little bit. But it's a little bit more nuanced than that, I would say. You kind of have to take a step back and look at those people who, if they left this company, if they left my company, how big of an impact would that have on my growth at the end of the day?
This is the HVAC and Plumbing Hustle podcast, and today I've got Jenna Toon on. And what is your official role over there?
Yeah, official role over here is founding customer success manager. So
Awesome.
Started about a year ago, yeah.
And we're talking about when it's appropriate and how to give your employees equity. And it's kind of been gaining popularity. I remember 2 or 3 years ago, I was at Home Service Freedom, and Tommy Mello highly recommended to do it. Essentially, is like, if we're going to win, I want to win with other people. What would you say from your perspective after, you guys have worked with a lot of plumbing HVAC companies? Why do you think this is gaining popularity now as a concept?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good question. I think the biggest thing in the beginning was that there just wasn't accessibility or knowledge around it in the beginning, right? Like I think equity and phantom equity has, people are scared of it sometimes. It's expensive. Dealing with lawyers all the time is tough. And I think just the education piece has become a lot more realized, and it's kind of more mainstream and more easily accessible. And I mean, obviously retention's been a fairly big issue, surrounding home services recently, and it's an incredible retention tool.
Yeah. So we're going to go into depth on this. But if you don't mind just giving a couple minutes background of like yourself, why you got into it with Reins, and I guess briefly what Reins does.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, again, customer success manager here at Reins, been here for about a year. And reason for getting into Reins just in the first place is I just believed in the mission, right? Like, you've got these people who really build America having these retention problems. And I agreed with the mission. I wanted to help out. And so that's kind of why I got started. But background on Reins and, just how it even got started. Our co-founder, Chris, his dad worked in the home services industry. And he had these key players that, he wanted to keep around, but there was nothing really accessible and easy to do so. Obviously, you can give people bonuses, but that's not really performance driven. And, Chris he sold his last company, Obi, and they incentivized all of their staff with equity. And Chris wondered, why can't my dad do this? And he learned really quickly that it's extremely expensive. There's so many, your employees have to buy into it. There's so many risks. You've got to open them up to your financials, and, you're giving them ownership. But, so again, yeah, Chris wondered why isn't it easy for my dad? And that's kind of how Reins was born. We worked with a ton of different compensation lawyers, attorneys all across America to create a proprietary framework to make it really easy. So we almost templatize the process. And that's how Reins was born.
Many homes suffer from inefficient HVAC systems due to leaky ducts, leading to uneven room temps, lost airflow, and higher energy costs. AeroSeal's innovative sealant technology targets and repairs leaks, improving airflow and efficiency. Increase your customer satisfaction, increase sales, and offer a unique market advantage. Become a leader in HVAC efficiency. AeroSeal.com.
And we'll save a little bit of the pitch, so to speak, for the end of the podcast. So we're going to just talk about equity and why to give it and a few other things. But there is necessarily a question there around, if there was so much paperwork and lawyers involved with the ability to give equity. This is a product question, but how do you make that happen without those? You know what I mean? Before we get out of pitch land, what is the way that's possible, or are people when people are putting these things into place on the back end of Reins? By the way, we use Reins and think it's really, really cool. But why do you have lawyers back there, or how does that work?
Yeah, if I'm understanding the question correctly, we do have lawyers that, we go to for guidance along the way. But how do I put this? At Reins, we're curated and not custom. So, I mean, there's only so many possibilities and options that really can go into a phantom equity plan. And what we've done is we've narrowed down all of the possibilities into the most safe for the business and the most aligned, I guess you should say, or I should say, with the business's goals. And so it's kind of like a reduction in decision fatigue. We kind of guide you into the plan that's going to work the best for your goals. And again, we've worked with so many different attorneys and lawyers, so we've taken that work off of your plate. We've taken all of the best practices, if you will.
So I guess I'm kind of understanding it's like there's a bunch of plans available within there, but they've all been worked through by lawyers. So the plans, it's not unlimited plans. There's a lot of different options, and those have all been essentially approved by lawyers.
Yes, exactly.
Gotcha.
Exactly.
And then there's like kind of like, man, I guess I'm like looking for the secret sauce here. It's an interesting product. It's a super interesting product. I think people should do this, but we'll get more into that in a second. I want to just ask about this idea of giving equity. Like, what's the most common that you see? You said you've worked with a lot of HVAC companies on this type of stuff. What's the most common way that people are using equity to incentivize their team?
Yeah. That's a really good question. So I've probably done about 300 plans at this point. And I would say the most common is, your key player, somebody who you don't want to leave. That's who you're going to give equity to. And we can go more into that down the road. But cookie cutter plans are just triggered on a sale. So a change in control, it's keeping these people around until you're ready to leave and you think that they, deserve a chunk of money. And so that's typically how they're set up, which is, really safe on the back end, right? If the customer leaves, if the employee leaves, they forfeit everything. You don't have any liability to pay them on the back end. So I would say that's typically how people set it up. It's just a simple change in control, which is, safest for the business and retention as well.
Awesome. So we kind of led into that idea of like, who should get this? And like, what do you see people most often requiring of these people for them to get it? You know what I mean? Like, what are the reasons that they've decided? And that, I think that will help guide other people who are interested in doing this, who they should choose.
Yeah, it's a good question. And it's actually something that we go through really diligently, in our process. But to answer the question, I think people get a little bit confused and they try and set up too many guardrails around, who should I give it to and why? I think typically people think, oh, well, if this person spent 7 years at the company, then maybe they deserve a little bit. But it's a little bit more nuanced than that, I would say. You kind of have to take a step back and look at those people who, if they left this company, if they left my company, how big of an impact would that have on my growth at the end of the day? It's the people that are going to drive growth and drive you to the numbers that you want to get to. Those are the people who you're going to want to offer phantom equity to. Those people that you can't live without, you can't survive without. I don't think it's as cookie cutter as people make it seem. They don't have to be there for 7 years. It can be a new hire. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a good point. I think of the idea of a meritocracy, and it's not about how many years you are here or anything like that. It's really like, it's tough. If you're an employee watching this, sorry, the value, right? Like value goes to the top, right? Like we allow people they could be here 2 years, but they could be almost at the top of the company, like in a smaller company, right? And we're not that big. We're like 55 people, and the ability to get to the top is not that hard if you're amazing. You know what I mean? So I think a lot of people don't have their company set up on a meritocracy, though. They have it set up on like a good old boys club, or like the ability to kind of work the system, be bureaucratic, and then also a lot of people just time. They're like, he's been longer here longer than that person, so he should be above that person. It's you got to be careful when you do these things, but you have to allow people to move past somebody that's been there longer.
100%. 100%. And that's the thing about phantom equity too, is it's not a silver bullet, if you will. Like it does take a lot of how do I put this? Transparency from the owners, if you will.
Yeah. Yep.
Right? Like, you want to talk about it. You want people to, something that I've seen Phantom Equity really doing is weeding out the bad people or the bad apples, but then also really highlighting those key people who they see the value in equity. They see the value in their work. They see that, hey, this is a stepping stone to me having a piece of the pie, right? And those are the people who you're going to want long term. And those are the people who are going to be incentivized. So making sure that it's talked about and understood that, hey, I can get there. There's a stepping stone. It's not, Bob's been here for 25 years. I've only been here for one. So it's discouraging. It's letting people know that, hey, this is open to you, but work hard for it. We don't believe in bonuses and just bonusing people for the sake of bonusing them. You've got to earn it, right? And that's what Phantom Stock is. I think a lot of people think, you've got to give it when you're a fully established company, when there might be a sale in sight and you want to retain people through a sale. Where we see it working the best is in the beginning. I think a lot of people think too, if I'm a small company, I can't grant equity or phantom equity. It's getting ahead of the problem and not being reactionary, being thoughtful to.
Yeah.
To.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good.
Just thinking about because I'm starting a new company, a roofing company, and out the gate we're going in with a couple smaller partners, like 5% and a 10%, and I just part of the idea is the buy-in that happens early. You know what I mean? Like I think that there's such an opportunity to get more buy-in. And I think I started that before I knew about Reins, like that process. But I think the process of divvying this up is kind of there's a lot of lawyers involved, as we kind of talked about, and it's getting clarity on both sides. I think no matter what, you have to have a lot of clarity. And I think as we decided to do this with my current company, Hook, is you have to have a lot of discussions too, you know what I mean, with your people and to make sure they know what this means and what you're asking for. Because really what I am asking for specific stuff, if not just more effort and enthusiasm, specifically when I'd like to give them more equity. Because in our case, we're kind of ramping up the equity as they hit certain goals. And I think it's being super crystal clear about that. And in my case, too, we also are trying to pair it with other raises because I don't think a lot of people don't feel like equity is real. You know what I mean? I half the time don't feel like equity is real. I think that's half the reason people sell is because they're trying to make sure the equity is real. And it's if I knew my company was worth $5 million right now, that would just soften my anxiety a little bit. You know what I mean? So knowing the worth of your company and knowing what you're giving away and then trying to help other people feel that hey, this company really is worth something and it's going to be worth more later. And we'd love to give you that. It could be anywhere. I like to be it could be 20,000. It could be terrible. It could be, we could sell for fire sale at the end of it or something, but it's probably more likely going to be 100,000 to 200,000 per percent, or giving them some real what this could mean when you sell, because it's I didn't even know all that a few short years ago, so it's kind of takes a little bit of work to try to explain equity and to make them feel the reality of the equity, I think.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right, and I think that's where traditional equity. That's one of the problems with traditional equity. I've been granted equity at previous companies that I've worked at, but it's not real. It's not tangible. It's kind of just this thing that's said, to me at least. And maybe I was naive back then, but you're so right. And I know we don't want to be pitchy, and I'm not trying to be pitchy here. But
you can talk about it. I'm kind of inviting you to talk about the product a little bit here. So
perfect. Yeah. Typically how equity works, and I'm sure is it's a piece of paper. You get the piece of paper, put it in your filing cabinet. Maybe you hang it up on the fridge. I don't know. I don't. But you kind of forget about it. You forget about it. You don't know what it's worth. You don't know what the company's worth. And I mean, I think one of the biggest pieces in the way to motivate people, I'm sure you've seen it, our mobile app. What it does is it makes this award living and breathing, right? It shows them how much is actually going to be in their pocket if the company sells today. But then it's uncapped. Stock ebbs and flows with the company. If it's growing, you're going to do well. So it's an incentive to continue growing the company, staying with the company. Because if I did sell, I've got a pretty penny in my pocket. But I think what makes equity and all the difference in equity is just the living and breathing aspect of it, being able to track it every day, being able, like, if you're having a bad day at work, you open your app, you're like, oh, I've got $100,000 in my pocket if I sell. Okay, maybe it's not as bad of a day as I thought it was. So the living and breathing aspect, I think, is huge.
That's good. So I actually haven't seen that side of the app. Is there some kind of does it connect back to the valuation of the company and you give a representation of the value of that stock? I haven't even seen this. So
yeah. Yeah. Well, you will. But yes. So we actually work with a third-party valuation partner. You can get a valuation done yourself, but we make it a little bit easier. We want to make the process as smooth as possible. But yeah, you typically get that company value done, and then you input that into Reins, and then whatever percentage you give your stakeholders or your employees, if you will, that's reflected in their app. So they know exactly how much they're going to get. And what's fun about it is you update your valuation typically every year. You can do it more if you want, but then they'll inherently see the value of their stock grow as you update that. So yeah, it connects to the platform.
that's super cool. That part is very enticing, I think. And when you guys update it, essentially, then all the percentage, they can see that. I was kind of I had questions about the price. So if you're willing to share about the price of Reins, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's
Or
unfortunate you're
even
stumping me
ranges,
here.
because I know it kind of I don't know if pricing changes or might go up over the next year or something like that. But if you don't mind sharing some ranges on things or what
Yeah, of
affects the
course.
price. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, typically what affects the price at the end of the day is how many users you have. But I would say set up roughly $4,000. And what that includes is, I mean, you've got onboarding, specialist. You get an annual plan review. You get access to all of the legal documents. You get access to the mobile app that I was talking so passionately about. You get access to profit sharing. Those are the quick ones. That's not, necessarily the long-term incentive. So I would say, yeah, around $4,000. And then a subscription fee of $300, which includes 5 users. But it depends on how many users you have at the end of the day.
For such a complex subject, it seems like a pretty good deal to me. Could you talk to people about to people that have objections to that price, or what you usually talk through when they're like, okay, that's maybe it's a little more than they wanted to spend. I know that I think it was for a second for me, and then I heard a little bit more. What are the questions that they have around the time when you talk about price that you usually have to address?
I think the biggest value add, is the visibility piece and the tools that we give you to execute that and keep everyone aligned with the business growth, with the financial goals of the company. But at the end of the day, too, when you go to a lawyer, if you want to administer any type of equity, that's going to run you anywhere from $13,000 to much more. And they overcomplicate it, and it just becomes this big time suck. And at Reins, it's as simple as we've done a plan in 45 minutes. You know what I mean? We've simplified the process that much where it's just a few decisions, and you've got these legal documents that are sound, and again, that visibility piece. So I think those are the two things that really bolster the value. But then our white glove service is phenomenal. We take care of you from before you even buy to onboarding. We hold your hand through the entire thing. We act as consultants really at the end of the day. And you brought up a point just previously that, you have to talk about it with your team. You have to educate them on certain things. And we handle that too. So we come, we do rollouts and make sure that your team actually understands. But then there's also that post care as well. So making sure that your contracts are up to date, making sure that just the system is up to date, right? Whether someone's been terminated, XYZ. So I think another big piece is the white glove service, making sure that it's simple for you guys, knowing that we've done it at least, 300 plans. You know what I mean?
As far as like where you see this going, do you think this is going to get more and more popular? Have you seen evidence that this is getting more and more popular as time goes on? I feel like I've heard more and more people in the industries that we serve talking about this more often. Does it feel like that to you guys? Is have you felt the momentum growing?
Yeah, definitely. With the competitive market too, like we talk to so many clients and customers where their employees are leaving for $1 more. Like private equity offers equity all the time. They do that for a reason. We've definitely seen the traction. We've also definitely seen the benefits. We've been doing this for at least 3 years. We've had the privilege of, working alongside people who are growing their company and issuing this type of equity.
I love that. I feel like that's happening, and I wish I had the numbers or statistics around this. Like more and more people are offering equity because I think it's a powerful thing to have in your tool belt. Another person in the industry that people might be aware of, Lance Bachman, talks about this a lot as well. Have you guys done anything with Lance? I'm just curious, I guess.
We
Okay, yeah,
haven't actually.
he's a huge proponent of this idea of giving equity.
Mhm.
He's like, I want my other people to get money and stuff like that. And or I guess he acquires companies and kind of that partnership. But he just talks about you're making a bigger pie, right? And it, giving somebody percent or 5% or 10%, if the pie grows, you gotta choose somebody where the pie is gonna grow partly because you gave them some, right? I think that's a big
Yes.
thing. Is like it's not from my point of view that ability to grow. You see somebody who could grow it significantly, right? And then you give them some so that they grow it more. And I think we have a lot of people on our team on performance pay, various types of performance pay. And that's like a big precursor to this. And you see how people light up and change the way they work because they have performance pay. And so for me, this is just a natural evolution. It's a bigger type of performance pay. And I can already see it helping the couple people on our team that we're giving it to kind of level up and take more ownership, which is really what I want. As an owner, I don't just want a lot of money. I want a lot of money. And
Yeah.
and I want to not have to micromanage everyone, and I'd like some help with like owning the systems, you know?
Right, exactly. And we've seen it so many times where yeah, people don't necessarily believe it. And then we'll go to a customer rollout and we'll talk to, someone on like a tech on the team that got offered equity. And he went home that night and showed his wife and they were so excited. And he's like, I feel like I actually am a part of something now. And everything that I do day to day is going to, at the end of the day, influence me. So we've seen it just make this or cause this behavioral shift. And I think some people, apologies, I'm going to go on a little bit of a tangent here, but I think something that people get scared of is with traditional equity, for example, you're giving up actual ownership in your company and you're giving somebody the right to look under the hood at your financials or have voting rights. And that's horrifying. And if they leave the company, you still owe them. You still owe them a chunk of change, right? And one of the really good things and benefits, I would say, of Phantom stock is that you're not actually giving up any ownership at the end of the day. You're not giving up any ownership rights, voting rights. They don't have the right to look under the hood. There's really no risk. With traditional equity, there's typically risk. And with traditional equity, there's also buy-in. With Phantom equity, you don't have to buy in. This is actually just a gift. And there's, again, no risk. If they leave the company, they forfeit the award completely. So it's Yeah, there's not really much risk, and I think that's something that people get scared about a lot. I'm sure, I mean, you as an owner, right? Like you don't necessarily want to give up full ownership of the company. You want to make a lot of money.
Yeah, I think even still, it's a little scary, right? Because people with
Mhm.
like that have equity, like you imagine if I have a problem with this person, you know what I mean? And like it might complicate things that we have a problem with them and that they, um, so I think that's partly where you want to have good paperwork or a good system behind you on the phantom equity or regular and equity. Can you give us a little bit more on? All right, so tell me a little bit more about Reins specifically and how it helps people with equity.
Yeah. Um, so, I mean, we really simplify the process in helping small businesses reward and retain top talent without actually giving up real equity. So, we make it really easy to design, issue, and manage phantom stock. We do have profit sharing and bonus programs, but really the goal is to align employees with the company all within one platform where everything lives and breathes. So, what makes Reins different? I would say it's very founder friendly. You know, like I've said multiple times, you keep full ownership and you don't lose any control. There's no like cap table chaos, if you will. It's very employee clear. I think one of the biggest themes in this is that equity can get a little bit confusing to just your average employee. It was for me. And what we do here is we simplify equity into the most simple terms possible and make sure that everyone understands that and your employees understand that. So it actually does make that difference that you're looking for. Extremely flexible by design here at Reins. Um, we work with your growth goals and but again at the end of the day there's protection for you as a company because it's built with so many guardrails around it to protect the business, to protect the owner, but then also to protect the stakeholder. Obviously without stakeholders we don't have a business. um, and it's just I think the end-to-end piece about it too, right? The
You know,
plan
just as a
design.
user, I like the software aspect of it, right? I want this to be simple. I like the fact that it's, you know, you can look at all of it on the back end in a really simple like software way, and then you know you guys have pretty good customer service, so like you're walking us through how to set it all up and make sure it's done and easy without a ton of our confusion on the back end. And then also you guys like walk through that with us, and it can execute that, and all of it can get done without being wildly sophisticated or consulting 5 different lawyers. So in my experience, it was super smooth. And I mean, like, and I can already feel the phantom equity helping lift our ownership with our team. So I think, you know, good idea. Even whether or not you use Reins, to like look into the idea of phantom equity and the ability to use that to help incentivize people. I think ultimately that's what we're trying to get the highest performance out of our people possible. We're trying to not have to micromanage or be involved in every little thing. And so beyond growing faster and getting more money, which I think we all want, I think it's also just the ability to like step back and then feel like your team taking ownership. And I think that there's a lot of power to this idea, whether or not you use Reins. That's my take.
I love that. That's
Yeah.
awesome. I love that.
Where can they go to check out Reins if they wanted to go sign up or get a
Yeah.
demo?
Yeah, just myreins.com. As simple as that.
My Reins is MYREINS.com. And by the way, your guys' website is beautiful.
Oh, thank you. I'm
And
going to tell my designer.
I like a good website. And this was thoughtfully created. Thoughtfully created. It's so good. I love it. He deserves a little bit of equity for sure, or at least
He's
phantom
got
equity. Okay,
He's
good.
got it.
I can tell. I can tell that your designer on this website has a little phantom equity. It's good.
I love that. Exactly. I can't wait to show this to him. He's going to be so excited. But that's just like our legal documents. They're
Yeah,
all curated, custom, exactly for the business and beautiful and ironclad.
I love it because I mean, I'll throw in a thing here at the end for Hook. I mean, if your website looks good, it's crazy the amount of inferences people make about the product, right? When your brand looks good and your website looks good, it's crazy. Like customers, we can't help but think the product's probably going to be really good too. And I think like it does matter for you guys too, because the back end, the software part of it looks nice too. Like it's well put together. Probably a different person maybe, but the UI of the software is very good as well.
Same guy.
This guy, so what is his name? This guy is good. I'm serious.
Tom
Like I
Harris.
love stuff like that. I love UX. I love like good, well thought out software and design. I'm proud of him. He's the real winner of today's podcast. That's what I will say. He's the real winner. This is good stuff.
Slightly offended, but I could not agree more. I'll always give Thomas a shout out whenever I can.
Sorry. No,
You're good.
appreciate y'all for watching. Podcast is put on by hookagency.com and go to My Reins and get a beautiful software to control your phantom equity.
Please do. Can't wait to see you guys.
All right, bye.
I can't commend Hook Agency enough on just the experience. We're talking about plumbing experience, but the experience we've had overall working with your team members on this project, they really draw out ideas that otherwise I didn't even think of, which is incredible. So thank you guys for being a valued partner of the Family Plumber. I really appreciate that.